Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, I'm playing the Tier 9 German destroyer Z-44. This is a German destroyer that does not have hydro, which feels pretty weird, but I decided to pick it up anyway because it's a playstyle that I really enjoy. This is a ship that if you enjoy ships that are, for the most part, entirely torpedo reliant when it comes to damage, then you probably will enjoy Z-44. If you like a destroyer that relies more on the guns than the torpedoes, or on concealment, or any number of other factors, then this may not be the ship for you. One nice thing about this ship, of course, with the torpedoes, is that they have a pretty quick reload. As you can see, it's just a little over a minute to get the torpedoes reloaded. And they've got a 12-kilometer range, which means you can use these without necessarily having to get within radar range, especially if you get ahead of an enemy push. Now this map, this is, in my opinion at least, especially challenging because I'm looking at the other side. They've got the Shiratsuyu, Z-39, Mahan, and Mogador. Now Mogador is it's a gunboat, and it's a very, very good gunboat. If I get caught out by the Mogador, he will use his reload booster and just shred me. Mahan, the guns on that are, especially at close ranges, much better. They have very floaty arcs at longer ranges, but it's a better gunboat than the Z-44. And the Z-39, well, it's got a pretty long-range hydro, decent guns, and fairly hard-hitting torpedoes. So it's also a threat. But the torpedoes on the Z-39 don't have the range that the torpedoes on the Z-44 do. And Shiratsuyu, well, it has the potential to throw a lot of torpedoes in the water. It can either take a torpedo reload booster or smoke, and it remains to be seen whether it'll become clear which this particular player has opted for. Now, I'm using the commander skill, radio location, or radio position finder, depending upon how long you've been in the game. And you can see the little semicircular white lines just above and to the left of the reticule right now. That gives me an indication of where the nearest enemy ship to me is located. So that's where I put the torpedoes. Because they reload so quickly, I didn't really mind doing that. You see, I waited just outside the central area of the cap, basically as long as I could, just till they almost had it, to throw the torps out there, hoping that DD would just sit there. And I know it's a DD because nothing else could get there that fast. And I'm guessing it's Mogador because that's the fastest ship in the game right here. I do land a torpedo. Now I've got some help. I've got Mahan in here with me. I've got a Mahan on the, well, just behind me at roughly 5 o'clock. I've got Akatsuki out at 4 o'clock. Now, in general, when I'm playing Epicenter and a destroyer, even one that does not have what I would call fantastic detection range, you can see on this ship it's 6.1 kilometers. I like to prevent the enemy team, and yeah, it was the Mogador that I caught with the torpedo. I like to prevent the enemy team from securing the cap circles. I'm hoping somebody with big guns will blap the Cleveland. Our Akatsuki's, he's in trouble there. He's spotted. I'm imagining, let's see, Neptune, Cleveland, and Lion can all get guns on our Akatsuki right now. Now Mahan's pushing up behind the island, and that's generally a pretty good spot to be, but everybody anticipates you going there. And they threw torpedoes there preemptively and caught him with one. So our Akatsuki goes down to the Cleveland as kind of expected. The Mahan that was in here with me, he goes down to torpedoes. Now you can see the Atlanta behind me, and I considered smoking. But I didn't because he didn't ask me to smoke. And I have, and if you play destroyers anywhere near as much as I do, you know this is true. Many, many, many times I have dropped smoke for someone only to have them either run out of it, or, especially those with big guns, although the Atlanta doesn't, get into the smoke and then fire and give their position away. So I didn't smoke for him. A little later in the game he gets a little aggravated at me for not smoking. you know, my focus was pretty much ahead of me. It's not that I didn't realize he was there. I do manage to finish off the Italian battleship, although I did not do the majority of the damage. It's not that I didn't know he was there. I'm constantly checking the minimap. Make sure I don't need a torpedo here. But I didn't want to smoke only to have him not make good use of the smoke. Now, it turns out, you know, I looked after the game. He's an exceptionally good player. He and his division mate. Better than me, by far. And had I smoked, he would almost certainly have made fantastic use of it. But I didn't know that. At the time, I just didn't know. And since he didn't ask me, he didn't click and say, hey, set a smoke screen or anything like that. At least not that I saw. I did not smoke. Two reasons for that. One, as I mentioned, very often it's just wasted because the player that I smoke for doesn't make good use of it. And the other is, on top of the fact that smoke is often wasted and the player that I've smoked for doesn't make good use of it, is the fact that then that leaves me without a smoke. It doesn't allow me any way to escape if I need to. So you can see I'm positioning, I'm using the radio location indicator to give me some idea of where I might expect torpedoes. And I'm just trying to avoid eating torpedoes. Now I figured right here, Atlanta was probably unable to be spotted. Gneisenau is behind the island. Izumo's too far away. I might be able to get torpedoes on the Georgia, but he'll probably turn. So I'm debating. I can't really, if I turn enough to get torpedoes out in front of Mogador, I'm showing a flat broadside to his potential torpedo strike, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to put some torpedoes out this way and hope that Georgia has not changed course, but I can already see that he has. Throw some torpedoes out there in case Gneisenau slows down or comes toward me, brings his nose to port. And you see that our Atlanta is falling back. And I think, you know, looking back on this game, I think at this point he's pretty frustrated with me. But again, he didn't ask me for smoke, or if he did, I missed it. I don't remember seeing a request for smoke, and usually that's something that anytime I hear, set a smoke screen, you know, from any of the other players pinging me, I generally will assess the situation, and I would say the majority of the time when someone asks me to set a smoke screen, I will. Especially for a ship like the Atlanta that I know if it sits in smoke and I spot for it, can do a lot of damage. But he didn't ask, so I didn't do it because I didn't want to waste the smoke. I do manage to get a torpedo hit. And he did flood, but he repaired instantly. Now with this positioning, really all I'm trying to do here is keep as many things spotted as possible and keep them from securing this cap. Right now, the good guys are down 3 ships, bad guys are down 2. They're up by 30 points. We do have the outer ring, but we're not getting any points from that. Now I had to smoke because I got spotted at close range. And that's why, especially when I'm in the center of an epicenter map like this, you can see Atlanta just put shells basically on me. And I asked him, why did you do that? And there's his frustration when now I smoke. Well, again, brother, if you'd have asked, I would have been glad to do it, but you didn't, so I didn't. I think I can outrun these torpedoes. I'm debating about putting torpedoes out on Neptune, but he's detected, and there are some ships with really good guns that I'm sure are targeting him right now, so yeah, he's getting blapped. Riga's just going to shred that Neptune. So I'm going to continue to put torpedoes in these lanes and just move to the edge of this cap. Now you'll notice where the radio position locator is kind of pointing, and you notice that directly behind me is an island. Why am I in this position? Well, because just like I am doing, many, if not most, enemy destroyer players are going to be torping the gaps. If I sit between where I know them to be and a gap, I'm much more likely to eat a torpedo. Now you see that smoke out there, right? You can see the set of torpedoes on the right side. That was pretty exciting to see because I thought, well, maybe I'll land a torpedo. Maybe somebody doesn't want to get spotted by the Mahan that's pushing in. But, nope. Checked on his Izumo, see whether he was going to try and come around the corner. Gneisenau now is reversing. I expect he's probably going to stop reversing. He's already eaten a torpedo in that gap. But I'm going to go ahead and put torpedoes out there anyway. And the closest thing to me is there, looking at the radio location indicator. So I'll put some other torpedoes kind of out in that direction. Why am I reversing? Well, I want to get close enough to be able to more reliably hit a destroyer should one pop up. The guns on this ship, they're pretty anemic. That's putting it mildly. They're not very good. The arcs aren't very good. The speed on the shot is not very good. So they're floaty and slow, and it just takes forever for the shells to land. So especially if you're trying to shoot at something that's 11 kilometers away, it takes a long time for your shells to get there, and especially if you're dealing with a destroyer, they're usually going to be able to maneuver and avoid your shot. Now the torpedoes you see there are coming from the destroyer that I knew was in that area. I was ready to move, so I just kind of move out of the way of those torpedoes. Now I can see that there are two destroyers there. They're both in smoke, and the Gneisenau is just at the extreme range. So he spots me, so I just smoke up now. Mahan's getting moving, and look how long it takes the shells to get there. He's 8 kilometers away, and it just takes forever for these shells to get there. If this was a Russian destroyer, I probably would have landed twice as many shells. And our Atlanta goes down to the enemy Izumo. I don't know that it was the Atlanta player that did it, but somebody in this game dinged me a point of karma. Which, you know, okay. But from my perspective, I'm doing my job. I'm working the center of the epicenter map, trying to keep the enemy from taking it. I've been outnumbered with 2 DDs to my 1 DD most of the game in the center. I haven't taken any damage. I've managed to do 37,000 damage, put 5 torpedoes on target. I feel like I'm doing I'm not playing the best game that's ever been played, but I feel like I'm doing my job. And this is a destroyer that does not have an exceptional detection range, doesn't have hydro, and has pretty pathetic guns. Now the AP on this ship, it can do some damage. If you catch a cruiser or something, you can see that he's got his speed boost active, but he slows down right there, and my shots completely missed the mark. Yeah, the guns, that is not the strength of this ship. I just want to get out of the way. Maybe I can land some on the Mahan. Looks like he's moving, at least he's moving in a straight line. Now Mahan, at best, his torpedoes will travel 9.2 kilometers. And I was at 9.3 there in my last volley. So if I move this way just a little bit, if he did throw torpedoes this way, they don't have any chance of catching me. I just have to watch out for the Z-39. And it looks to me like he's crossed from his smoke left behind that island. You can see our Musashi's pushed up. Meanwhile, our Mahan finishes up the Shiratsuyu. And now, we've got 6 ships. Bad guys only have 4. We've got a cap circle. We're just not getting any points from it. And we're working on trying to secure the center cap here. Our Georgia's put in some work. He's finished off 2 ships. Musashi's definitely put in some work. I can't pronounce it. Caracciolo and Magami. You know, they've both done damage throughout the game. Trying really hard to get this cap. It's been over 15 minutes of trying to, well, secure the cap is the goal, but at least keep the enemy team from getting it. Now, I'm guessing this destroyer is right here at this island that I'm pointing at, not the one right in front of me, but the one directly behind it. And I'm going to try and catch him and finish him off. Why? Because he's almost out of hit points, and I still have a lot of hit points. There he is. You can see I've got Gunther Luchens as my captain on this ship. I'll fill this gap with torpedoes. Gneisenau has torpedoes, does not have hydro. What am I doing? I'm aiming high. I'm trying to catch the Mahan here. I didn't realize I wasn't locked on to the Gneisenau, so my dispersion is terrible. That's something, if you didn't know, if you're locked onto, in that example, if I'd been locked onto the Gneisenau, which I thought I was, then you still have the regular lock-on dispersion, and I might have been able to catch the Mahan, but I wasn't locked on to anybody, so my shots were going all over the place. I'm backing up here because I'm guessing that either Gneisenau or the DD are going to cross and throw torpedoes into my smoke, and I think I'll be able to handle finishing the Mahan here. He beaches himself, and that's probably going to be it for the Mahan, and I'll just make sure I don't need a torpedo.
Wir haben einen gegnerischen Zerstörer versenkt. Unser Sieg ist in Sicht.
And really, this game's all over but shouting. I irritated the Atlanta player. If by some chance, and it's probably unlikely given how few people are watching these videos, that player ever sees this, I hope he knows that I was not intentionally ignoring him, and I was definitely not trying to be a jerk. And I mean it when I say, in almost every case, if someone requests smoke, I will drop a smoke. Because then I know they're going to try and make use of it. And since this is almost over, there's just a little bit of a gun duel here that ends pretty abruptly. I will say thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this at all or felt like you learned anything, if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.